Animation, a medium tragically underappreciated by the film industry. Hours upon hours of work to make wonderful visual masterpieces you and your parents and/or children all know and love. No two animation industries are the same, but they may sometimes be influenced by the same people. One man in particular has shown his hand with Disney, Dreamworks, Cartoon Network, and most recently, Netflix. Introducing the man who made your childhood, or at least may have participated in such. I give you the one, the only, the great and talented
James Baxter. James Baxter.
Also, while we're at it, hi all, my name is Elliott Krause, and for the sake of legal reasoning, I will say in advance that this video is the final project for one of the classes I take at Houston Community College, so everything said and used for this video is for educational purposes only. All this to say, if I used any work that may be copyright, please don't sue me. Okay, so you may be wondering, hey, little nerd, who the hell is James Baxter? Also, why is that the shirt you drew? I won't answer the second question. For the first question, I'll give you the long answer. James Baxter was born May 24th, 1967 in Bristol, UK, and was inspired to become an animator in his teenage years when learning from works by Richard Williams, best known for The Thief and the Cobbler. He would later work under Williams as an animator under his direction for his first professional work, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, in the mid to late 1980s. He stayed with Disney and worked as a character animator in films ranging from The Little Mermaid to The Hunchback of Notre Dame. After Notre Dame, he moved to Dreamworks and worked on every pen and paper film they released, as well as the films Shrek 2 and Madagascar. He left Dreamworks in 2005 and opened his own independent studio, where he directed animation for Enchanted, Curious George, and the Kung Fu Panda opening scene. The studio closed in 2008, so he went back to Dreamworks to work on films like Monsters vs. Aliens, How to Train Your Dragon, and The Croods, all the way up until the first Trolls film. He was also a guest animator and voice actor for the show Adventure Time for 2 episodes, both about a cartoon horse who dances on a beach ball and makes everyone happy, honorably known as James Baxter. In 2008, after working with Dreamworks for so long, he moved his work to Netflix, where he's been working on projects like Klaus, Bevo, and Centaur World. Whew, I need some water. Now that his personal story is out of the way, let's take a look at some of the works he's done. Chronologically, of course. His first work noted on IMDb is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Now, it's not labeled exactly what he animated, but one can see that the visual style of the film's animated portions, especially when it comes to the what I call Roger Rabbit style, is a style that Baxter has maintained throughout the last 35 years. The movie was very different than I thought it would be. Then again, it released in 1988 when casual racism and misogyny around the workplace was aesthetically okay. Plus, it did take place in the late 1940s, but it's also very much leaning towards the PG-13 rating despite its label of PG. I mean, patty cake being the essential equivalent of cheating on your spouse? Clever yet raunchy. I liked it. This film, directed by Robert Zemeckis, who you may know directed Back to the Future and Forrest Gump, is a pretty pivotal film. It sparked a series of films that would take on a mixed media fashion that's still being expanded on today, such as Cool World, Mars Attacks, the recent Chip and Dale and Tom and Jerry films, and of course, in short, Roger Rabbit was a success. In 1989, the Don Bluth and Burt Reynolds classic, All Dogs Go to Heaven, released, where Baxter worked as an, uncredited, supervising animator. Ironically, when I watched it, I kept having to pause it so that I could sit my own dogs, of which I have 3, Celine, Vlad, and Louie. Now, I've already experienced the feeling of losing a pet like 5 times, which is why it didn't make me cry, but I think this film gave me a better appreciation for my puppers. Visually, of course, it fits within the Don Bluth animation style that I'd seen many times before, specifically with Anastasia, and it makes sense that Baxter could easily wrap into Bluth's vision. Directly after was The Rescuers Down Under. This sequel film is another one of Disney's, and while it's not as well known as other Disney classics, including its predecessor, its animation is quite pleasing. My only critique is that it's not as accurately Australian as Bluey. Besides that, it's a very cute movie with pleasant visuals. It was also Disney's first film to be traditionally animated, every single frame being hand-drawn, using the then-new Computer Animation Production System, or CAPS, which means that all of the animation was done digitally and layered over scanned background paintings, thus beginning a new age of Disney filmmaking. After Down Under began Baxter's legacy of work during Disney's beloved Renaissance period in the 1990s. He worked on Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, and did amazing work on The Hunchback of Notre Dame. After that, he officially quits the mouse and heads over to Dreamworks. Baxter worked on all 4 of Dreamworks' pen and paper films, and as one can tell, his reputation in the animation industry at that point precedes him. He stayed with Dreamworks to work on Shrek 2, Far Far Away Idol, and Madagascar. After that, he quits Dreamworks and opens his own studio, James Baxter Animation, in Pasadena, California. His studio's first work was on Universal's Curious George movie in 2006, directed by Matthew O'Callaghan, if that isn't the most Irish name you've ever heard. This movie, about an adorable beloved monkey most of us may know, is a very cute and visually pleasant film to watch. Baxter worked as an animation supervisor from his studio, while other studios from the States, Canada, France, Taiwan, and South Korea assisted in the project as well. Its animation fits the bedtime book vibe, the colors were very catching, and the cast is pretty impressive too, including big names like Will Ferrell, Drew Barrymore, David Cross, Eugene Levy, and Dick Van Dyke. I mean, wow. And this movie came out 17 years ago. I certainly feel old thinking about it. It came out when I was 2. I'm getting sidetracked. James Baxter Animation only existed for another 2 years, working the 2D animation for Enchanted, but not its sequel, which Baxter himself worked as an animation supervisor, and the dream sequence for Kung Fu Panda, which Baxter was the animation director for. And he won an Annie for it too. Baxter's studio unfortunately didn't last long and disbanded in 2008. Baxter went back to Dreamworks and started back work with Monsters vs. Aliens. He continued his work on How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda 2, Puss in Boots, Rise of the Guardians, The Croods, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Home, Trolls, and Boss Baby. He gave his talents on Cartoon Network for Regular Show, Samurai Jack, and Steven Universe. But that's not the most important credit. His most important credit is the 2 episodes of Adventure Time he worked on that were literally dedicated to him. I'm talking, of course, about the horse on a beach ball, honorably known as James Baxter. If you don't watch Adventure Time, at least watch those episodes so you can see what I mean. He went back to Disney in 2018 to animate for Mary Poppins Returns. I mean, it only makes sense, right? No one really understands the classic format of Disney animation other than Baxter. The year prior, though, he opted to move his work out of Dreamworks and into the most well-known streaming platform in the world as of today, Netflix. He's made notable work on the films Klaus and Vivo and the series Centaur World as both an animator and masterclass teacher for other animators so that they could learn how to properly capture the majestical movement of a horse. Because, well, the show speaks for itself, and the main character is a horse, so. In 2020, they released a film that would be the final installment of a trilogy inspired by Irish folklore and all directed by Tom Moore and developed by the people at Cartoon Saloon in Kilkenny, Ireland. That film being Wolfwalkers. The film itself was less inspired by folklore and more so by the point in history when Ireland was being colonized by the English in the 1600s. Because of this, the movie actually takes on 2 different animation formats, highlighting the differences between the people of Kilkenny and the Wolfwalker characters. The people of Kilkenny are formatted in a style inspired by 17th century woodcuts, looking very thick, angular, and geometric, while the Wolfwalker characters are formatted with sketchy, expressive, and curved lines that intentionally kept their pencil construction lines, alluding to a sense of freedom. Baxter, of course, assisted in animation for the Wolfwalker characters, and while I couldn't find any specific parts in the film that he animated, I did find a video posted on social media of a test clip that he did animate for the 2 girls, Robin and Maeve, in their wolf bodies. This film, like many other films from Cartoon Saloon, is very beautifully made, and it helps me form an appreciation for Irish culture. God, I'd love to visit there someday. The most recent thing he's done is from this year, when he returns to Disney once again to help animate characters for Disney Animation's 100th anniversary short film. Doing some research, I found that many animators that previously worked for Disney during their Renaissance era, or at any point for that matter, were asked to come back to animate the characters they had previously worked on, and then some. So you can take a gander at who James Baxter animated. And that's all for his current works. Can't wait to see what he's done for Kung Fu Panda 4. Whoops, I almost forgot. We're supposed to find comments from critics or historians about their works. While I couldn't find any comments about him from either, there are numerous articles written about him and the work he's done. One article that I found from Animated Spirit was about a shot sequence from Hunchback of Notre Dame that he animated. The article reads, Baxter's animation here displays great draftsmanship and rhythmical brilliance as Quasimodo travels with speed, power, and control. Animating to a moving camera is perhaps the hardest thing to do for a character animator. It requires great knowledge and control of the camera, as well as superb abilities on the body mechanics aside. All movements must be smooth, display believable weight, and be dynamically appealing. Looking back at the clips I've shown you throughout this video, I'd say Baxter has an amazing understanding of what dynamic shots like that can look like, as well as an incredible knowledge of how weight should look. His brain works very much in a 3D visual format, and such a gift is evidently used quite well. So now, you may be asking, hey nerd, what's the point of all this? I mean, why pick this guy above all else? Well, animation. A medium tragically underappreciated by the film industry. Hours upon hours of work to make wonderful visual masterpieces you and your parents and or children all know and love. No two animation industries are the same, but they may sometimes be influenced by the same people. James Baxter was the first ever professional name I heard about when it came to diving deeper into my interest in animated features when I got older. I would love to try my hand in working with people like him to make beautiful, classic films like The Little Mermaid and Klaus, so that I can inspire others to expand their vision and creative limits. Admittedly, I've not done much animating, but I want to improve my skills as an artist nonetheless. I recently started doing so by practicing with digital media, and it felt really good to see how my work could look in a new style. It felt very refreshing. James Baxter is a man who has ignited magic in people's childhoods, even though they may not know it. And I can see a lot of his influence in animators that I find just by scrolling through videos on YouTube or TikTok. Animation is a passionate art medium, and Baxter hasn't put his pen down yet. I would hope he doesn't anytime soon. My love for animation comes from him and other animators who love to tell stories that would be impossible to capture on camera. Actually, I take that back. It could be possible, you just have to have enough green screens and puppets and other tools to make it happen. Storytelling is important to me as someone who wants to join a career that may, in the long run, be impossible to truly succeed in. But if I've learned anything from animation, it's that such beauty takes effort and time to accomplish. Just look at the rough animation from Baxter's most iconic movies. Whether it takes days, weeks, months, or even years, I want to learn to appreciate and understand the patience that one has to muster to turn a simple sketch into a moving and feeling character. I want to make art like this so that it can inspire more and more artists around the world to try their hand at something new and innovating. These days, when new ideas are opened up through animation, not too many good ones are appreciated. Many animated shows I've watched on Netflix and other platforms have been canceled after 2 seasons for so-called tax purposes. I am a little scared for what's in store for the future, but I retain hope anyway for the sake of every artist that wants to be seen. These movies have captured my heart over the course of my life, and I don't know what kind of person I'd be without them. So from the bottom of my heart, I would just like to say for all Disney lovers, film nerds, and animators alike, from us to you, thank you, James Baxter.